All right, so everyone's telling me Texas is over. It's too expensive. It's been bought up by tech bros and hedge funds. You know the narrative. But here's the truth. There are still cities in Texas you can afford to live in, especially going into 2026. You just need to know where to look. If you've ever opened Zillow and silently wept, or seen a 3-bedroom in Austin for more than your car, you're not alone. The housing market in Texas is shifting. Median prices are hovering. Inventory is loosening. And some markets are starting to favor buyers again. Yet affordability has become a myth in many places. What I'm going to do is take you city by city, region by region, and show you the only places in Texas where you can still live without hemorrhaging your bank account. These are real towns with real houses under or around the state average, not flyover towns in the middle of nowhere, unless you love tumbleweed. We'll kick things off in the north, then slide through central, west, south, and even suburbs of Houston and Dallas that still have hope. I'll tell you price ranges, pros and cons, who these places are good for. Families, first-time buyers, people escaping big metros. So get your Zillow tab ready, dust off your moving boots, and let's map out your escape route to a Texas home you can actually afford in 2026. The Texas myth. You've heard the line a million times. Texas is dead. You can't live here unless you're rich or inherited land. Heck, you've probably muttered it yourself while staring at a $450,000 starter home listing in Austin and weeping softly into your coffee. But here's the catch. That narrative is half-truth, hyperbole, and clever marketing. Texas does have places left where affordable isn't a joke, and into 2026, those places matter more than ever. Over the past few years, Texas home prices skyrocketed in the major metros. Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston saw bidding wars, zero contingency offers, and sky-high acres of concrete replacing green fields. That boom stunned everybody. But now we're seeing cracks in that facade. Inventory is loosening. More homes are sitting unsold, and sellers are starting to make concessions. The median home sale price in Texas in August 2025 was about $346,400, showing a slight dip year over year. Meanwhile, new listings are rising, giving buyers more breathing room. Still, and this is key, just because the overall median is easing doesn't mean everything is affordable again. There are still pockets of Texas where pricing and cost of living are brutal. Property taxes, insurance, homeowner association fees, utility bills. They all chip away at what affordable really means. The myth is that Texas equals cheap for everyone. That's dead. What's real now is Texas equals cheap if you choose the right city. So we're going to bust the myth wide open. You won't get dreamy PR fluff about up-and-coming neighborhoods that cost as much as a small island. You'll get real towns, real prices, place still within reach of regular budgets heading into 2026. If you're serious about finding a home in Texas without going bankrupt, we'll sort out the myths, the traps, and the real opportunities. Let's move. And hey, if Texas is on your radar, you're in the right place. We cover everything about living, moving, and thriving here. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stick around for more Texas truth bombs. North Texas gems. Let's start peeling back the layers in North Texas. This is where you'll find the truest bargains if you want to escape Dallas/Houston level prices while still staying in reach of major job markets and amenities. These are not holes in the map. These are real cities with character, infrastructure, and homes you can afford heading into 2026. Wichita Falls is one of the first places that jumps out. It's a smaller city by Texas standards, but the median listing price for homes is often in the $150,000 to $200,000 range, which is dramatic compared to what you'd see in the big metros. You'll even find 3 or 4 bedroom houses under $200,000. The rental market is also forgiving. Apartments and houses rent for as low as $700 to $1,200 in many areas. Living costs here hover well below the national average. You won't have the glitz of Dallas, but you'll have breathing room in your budget. Wichita Falls also has a few challenges you should know about. The job market isn't booming in tech, so your opportunities will lean more toward healthcare, manufacturing, education, and regional services. The city does have public housing and housing authority programs to support low-income residents. But for someone with a decent income, your housing cost burden will be much lighter than in the big Texas metros. Next, let's slide over toward Sherman and Denison, Texoma country. Sherman's median home price recently crossed approximately $300,000, which might feel steep if you're comparing to Wichita Falls. But relative to Dallas proper, it still offers better value. Sherman is growing. The commute to Dallas for some is feasible, and you get good schools, basic amenities, and a more manageable scale. That said, one study showed that only about 6.5% of new homes there are considered truly affordable for average local buyers, so you'll need to be selective and quick. In comparing Sherman and Tyler, housing costs in Sherman tend to be slightly lower, about 1% cheaper on average. Both offer small city vibes, lower traffic, and more land per dollar than Dallas or Austin. The trick is picking neighborhoods that aren't overbuilt or already locked into aggressive upward pricing. Tyler itself deserves a shout-out. East Texas charm, piney woods, and affordability make it one of the sleeper picks. It's not dirt cheap, but it strikes a balance. You can find decent homes in the $250,000 to $350,000 range, depending on how far out you go. Tyler is far enough removed from major congestion, but still has enough critical mass. Medical institutions, colleges, local retail, to feel like a real town, not a ghost of suburbia. When you stitch together Wichita Falls, Sherman, Denison, and Tyler, you get a belt of North Texas where you can escape the worst of rate hikes, bidding wars, and ruthless competition. These places let you live with space, dignity, and a home you don't have to mortgage your future for. By slinging across this region first, we paint a picture. You don't need to land in a trending it city. You just need to land smart. Up next, we'll head inland toward Central Texas and find where the middle still holds. Drive down into Central Texas and you'll see why this region is still hanging on to the affordable label. Even as 2026 comes knocking, Austin may have priced itself into orbit. But just an hour or two in any direction, you can still find pockets where homes are reasonably priced. Neighborhoods are livable, and you're not stuck in rush hour gridlock every time you want groceries. Temple is a perfect example. This city has quietly become one of the most practical places to buy in the middle of the state. The healthcare sector here anchors the local economy, and that stability keeps things from swinging too wildly. Median prices are hovering in the mid to high 200s, which makes Temple one of the most approachable markets left near Austin. Belton, right next door, comes with a little more polish thanks to the lake and highly rated schools, and homes do run a bit higher. Still, Belton's not out of reach. You can find solid properties in the $300,000 range, a bargain compared to Austin's chaos. Then there's Killeen, a city that moves to the rhythm of Fort Cavazos. The military presence makes the housing market steady, affordable, and filled with options. It's not glamorous, but this is one of the last places in Texas where a family can still grab a 3-bedroom without maxing out credit cards. Average sale prices are typically in the low to mid 200s, which is why Killeen consistently ranks as one of the best bets for first-time homebuyers. And of course, we can't ignore Waco. Thanks to TV fame, it's got name recognition. But under the surface, it's still surprisingly practical for regular buyers. Prices here generally land in the high 200s, and with more homes lingering on the market, you can actually negotiate instead of being shoved into a bidding war. It's a college town with a real downtown, plenty of jobs, and a location right on I-35 that connects you to both Dallas and Austin without the sticker shock. The moral of the story is this: Central Texas still has openings if you know where to look. Temple is the entry-level winner. Belton is the lifestyle upgrade. Killeen is the dependable workhorse. And Waco gives you a brand name without bankrupting your wallet. If you've been priced out of Austin and you want affordability with a heartbeat, these are the places that deserve a hard look heading into 2026. West Texas deals. Now let's roll out to West Texas, where the sunsets stretch forever, the land feels endless, and the cost of a house won't make you choke on your sweet tea. This part of the state doesn't get as much love as Austin, Dallas, or Houston, but that's exactly why you can still find deals heading into 2026. The trade-off? You've got to be okay with wide open spaces, oil rigs on the horizon, and the occasional dust storm blowing past your porch. But if you're chasing affordability, West Texas is where you can still win. Abilene is the first city that pops up on the radar. It's a military town thanks to Dyess Air Force Base, which gives it a stable job base and steady housing demand without the wild price surges you see elsewhere. The median home price hovers in the low 200s, and you can still find a 3-bedroom house with a yard for under $250,000. Cost of living is well below the national average. Groceries and utilities run cheap, and the community vibe here is strong. If you want small city amenities without losing that Texas openness, Abilene is one of your best bets. Drive further south and you hit San Angelo, a city with a personality all its own. It's quieter than Abilene, but has a surprisingly strong arts and culture scene. San Angelo also benefits from its riverfront and lakes, which give it more natural beauty than you might expect out in this part of Texas. Home prices usually land in the mid-200s, and for buyers looking for stability, the local economy is balanced between agriculture, education, and regional healthcare. San Angelo feels like one of those places where you can buy a house, slow down, and still have things to do on weekends. Then there's Midland and Odessa, the oil twins of Texas. This is where affordability gets interesting, because housing costs are lower than the big cities. But the lifestyle isn't for everyone. Oil money runs the show here. When the market is booming, jobs and wages spike. But when prices drop, the economy cools. Median home prices have floated in the $250,000 to $280,000 range, which is very doable compared to Austin or Dallas. The trade-off is that Midland and Odessa are truly West Texas living. Hot, dry, and sometimes rough around the edges. But for buyers chasing affordability and willing to put up with the boom and bust cycle, these towns still offer some of the best deals in the state. West Texas doesn't pretend to be trendy. It's not hip coffee shops on every block or shiny tech campuses. It's ranches, pickup trucks, and communities that stick together. The houses are affordable, the space is endless, and you won't have to fight 10 bidders for a starter home. If your dream of Texas involves more land and less traffic, West Texas still delivers the deals in 2026. South Texas options. Now let's head south, where Texas runs warmer, wetter, and a little wilder. This part of the state has always carried a unique identity, blending Gulf Coast vibes with a borderland culture that feels completely different from the rest of Texas. And the good news for anyone thinking about moving in 2026 is that South Texas is still one of the last strongholds of true affordability. Homes here are not only cheaper, but the overall cost of living can be thousands less per year compared to the big metro sprawls. Corpus Christi is the coastal option that never really left the conversation. Here you've got beaches, fishing, and bayfront breezes at a fraction of what coastal life costs anywhere else in the country. Median home prices hover in the high 200s to low 300s. And if you're willing to live a little farther inland instead of right on the water, you can go even lower. Insurance rates for coastal homes can sting. But when you factor in the beach lifestyle and lower daily expenses, Corpus still offers one of the best quality of life trade-offs in Texas. Plus, the port and refineries anchor jobs, keeping the economy more resilient than outsiders might expect. Slide west to Laredo and you'll find a border city with strong culture, family roots, and affordability that's almost shocking compared to the rest of Texas. The housing market here has remained accessible, with many homes sitting well below the state median. Living costs are consistently some of the lowest in Texas, making it attractive for anyone who values stretching their paycheck. It's not a glitzy market. You won't see trendy skyscrapers or a booming tech hub. But if you want stability, affordability, and a community that feels grounded, Laredo is a practical pick. Go even farther south into the Rio Grande Valley, and you hit Brownsville, Harlingen, McAllen, and a string of smaller towns that still deliver some of the most affordable housing in the entire state. The valley has grown in popularity over the last few years, thanks to its low cost of living, warm weather, and proximity to the coast and Mexico. Median home prices here remain comfortably under $250,000 in many areas, which is increasingly rare in Texas heading into 2026. The economy has been diversifying slowly, with healthcare, education, trade, and even aerospace jobs gaining traction near Brownsville. That's giving the region more staying power than it had a decade ago. South Texas doesn't try to be Austin or Dallas. It offers a different lifestyle, slower, sunnier, and undeniably affordable. Whether it's Corpus with its Gulf breezes, Laredo with its deep-rooted culture, or the Valley with its unbeatable housing prices, this region proves that Texas still has places where affordability isn't just a marketing pitch. If you're serious about finding a home you can actually pay for in 2026, South Texas deserves to be circled in red on your map. Houston suburbs. That still work. Houston itself has gotten tricky. The city proper has flooding risks, rising property taxes, and inner loop neighborhoods that feel out of reach for most buyers. But the metro is massive, and scattered around its edges are suburbs that still balance affordability, livability, and access to Houston's job market. These are the places that give you space, decent schools, and a realistic mortgage payment heading into 2026. Conroe is the obvious starting point. About 45 minutes north of downtown Houston, it has grown like crazy over the last decade, but it still manages to stay affordable compared to the Woodlands, which sits just next door and is basically luxury central now. In Conroe, you can still find newer homes in the $280,000 to $320,000 range, and the added bonus is the lake lifestyle. Lake Conroe offers fishing, boating, and weekend escapes without leaving home. It's one of those rare suburbs where you can work in a big metro, but come home to something that feels like a getaway. On the east side of Houston, Baytown is often overlooked, but that's part of why it works. The industrial base is strong, with refineries and shipping jobs anchoring the economy, and the housing prices remain more forgiving. The median home price here is often closer to $230,000 to $250,000, which makes it one of the most accessible areas in the Houston metro. Baytown isn't glamorous, but it delivers value. You can get a full-sized single-family home with a yard for what you'd pay for a cramped townhome inside the loop. Then you've got Rosenberg and Richmond, southwest of Houston. These cities have been pulled into the metro's growth, but they remain more affordable than their neighbors in Katy or Sugar Land. Prices typically run in the $260,000 to $300,000 range, and you still get good schools, suburban amenities, and manageable commutes for anyone working on the southwest side of Houston. These towns give families breathing space without sacrificing access to the jobs, hospitals, and shopping that anchor the metro. Houston's sprawl can be overwhelming, but if you're strategic, it can also be your advantage. While central neighborhoods may be drifting out of reach, the surrounding suburbs still give buyers a fighting chance. Conroe, Baytown, Rosenberg, and Richmond prove that the Houston area isn't completely closed off yet. If you're willing to live just a bit outside the spotlight, you can still land a solid house and keep your budget in one piece going into 2026. Cities to avoid. Now let's be real for a second. Not every corner of Texas is worth your money, no matter how badly you want a Lone Star zip code before 2026. Some cities have crossed the line from expensive but manageable to completely out of touch with reality. Others may still have affordable listings on paper, but the lifestyle trade-offs are so steep that most people regret making the move. So let's cut through the hype and talk about the Texas cities you should probably cross off your list. Austin is the most obvious one. Once upon a time, it was the quirky, affordable capital where artists, musicians, and tech workers could all live in the same neighborhood. Fast forward to now, and median home prices are still sitting hundreds of thousands above the state average. Even with the market cooling a little in late 2025, affordability hasn't really returned. Add in traffic that eats half your day, and property taxes that chew up your budget, and Austin is a tough sell unless your salary has a couple extra zeros. Dallas proper is another one that doesn't make sense anymore if affordability is your top concern. Sure, there are pockets in southern Dallas that still have lower price tags, but they often come with higher crime rates or longer commutes. The more desirable neighborhoods, think Uptown, Lakewood, or even Oak Cliff, have climbed so far past $400,000 to $500,000 that first-time buyers can't touch them. Unless you're coming in with equity from another market, Dallas city limits are more headache than bargain. Houston's inner core also lands on this list. Between flooding risks, insurance costs, and rising home prices in neighborhoods like Heights or Montrose, the value equation doesn't work anymore. You're paying top dollar for smaller lots and constant maintenance worries. Even the so-called affordable areas often come with crime or infrastructure issues that make them a gamble. San Antonio rounds this section out. The city itself has long been touted as the last big affordable metro, but prices have surged here too. The closer you are to downtown or major job hubs, the harder it is to find a house under $300,000. While the outer ring suburbs still work, inside the city limits, you'll quickly realize affordability is vanishing, and the competition is heating up as buyers pushed out of Austin and Houston look for their next option. So if you're looking at 2026 with affordability in mind, Austin, Dallas proper, Central Houston, and much of San Antonio aren't the bargains they once were. The dream of Texas affordability lives on, but not in these zip codes. The smart move is to focus on the surrounding cities and suburbs that still have room to grow without draining every dime you make. The wild cards. Every state has its curveballs, and in Texas, those wild cards sit out on the plains where the winds never stop blowing. These aren't the first places people think of when they're daydreaming about moving to Texas. But that's what keeps them affordable as 2026 approaches. If you can handle dust, wind, and a little isolation, these towns can deliver a lifestyle that feels both old-school Texas and surprisingly budget-friendly. Amarillo is the classic example. It's windy, flat, and sometimes feels like you're living inside a country song. But the affordability here is undeniable. Median home prices linger in the low 200s, often even below that, and you get far more square footage for your money than anywhere near the big cities. The economy leans on agriculture, food production, and energy, so it's steady but not flashy. The trade-off is you have to accept the weather. It's not just breezy, it's full-on wind tunnel living. But for families who want space and schools without financial stress, Amarillo is one of the few remaining cities where the numbers still make sense. Then there's Lubbock, which brings a little more energy thanks to Texas Tech University. The college town vibe keeps the city younger, more dynamic, and filled with things to do on weekends. From football games to live music, housing here remains well under the state's larger metro averages, typically in the mid to high 200s, and you can still snag starter homes in the low $200,000 range if you look carefully. It's not immune to rising prices, but compared to Austin or Dallas, it's still accessible. The downside is the dust. Lubbock's legendary dust storms are no joke, and if you're not into cleaning sand out of your car every week, it may wear on you. The truth about these wild cards is simple. They aren't for everyone, but for the right person, they're gold. Amarillo and Lubbock give you affordable housing, community-driven lifestyles, and less stress over your mortgage. You just need to be okay with trading skyscrapers for silos and rush hour traffic for tumbleweeds. Going into 2026, they remain two of the safest bets in Texas for affordability, even if they're not on the cover of glossy Best Places to Live magazines. So after rolling across the state and breaking down the data, here's the bottom line. Texas still has affordable cities left, but you need to be sharp about where you plant roots. The days of assuming every corner of the Lone Star State is cheap are long gone. Heading into 2026, affordability lives in the suburbs, the smaller metros, and the overlooked regions that big investors and out-of-staters haven't gobbled up yet. If we're stacking them up, the clear value plays land in places like Wichita Falls up north, where you can still buy a full house for under $200,000, and Temple in Central Texas, where the medical hub keeps the economy strong and home prices reasonable. Waco holds its ground as a recognizable name that hasn't tipped over into absurd pricing, while Corpus Christi shines on the coast with lifestyle perks that are almost impossible to find at that price point anywhere else in the country. And if you want a wild card that's both affordable and stable, Amarillo's wide-open affordability makes it one of the safest bets for buyers who just want more house for less money. When you line them up, Wichita Falls, Temple, Waco, Corpus Christi, and Amarillo, you get a mix of affordability, livability, and long-term stability that proves Texas isn't tapped out yet. These are the kinds of cities where your mortgage won't crush you, your family can settle in, And you can still feel like you're part of a growing community instead of getting priced out before you even unpack boxes. So don't buy the myth that Texas is over. It's not. You just need to pick wisely. And if you're serious about moving in 2026, these 5 standouts should be at the very top of your list. And there you have it. The only affordable cities left in Texas as we head into 2026. Some people will keep shouting that Texas is done, that you can't buy here anymore unless you win the lottery. But that's just not the full story. If you look beyond the hype, skip the overpriced hotspots, and dig into the overlooked markets, you'll still find homes where your money stretches, your family can thrive, and your future feels stable. So if you're planning that big Texas move, don't just dream about Austin condos or Dallas lofts. Think smart, think long-term, and find the towns where affordability is still alive. And if you want more guides, more deep dives, and more straight talk about what living in Texas is really like, this is the channel to stick with. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's keep building the real story of Texas together.